Okay, let's get going on a Saturday morning here on a rather chilly day in the Northeast. I thought before the day got too far along and before I headed out of town that I would spend a few minutes talking about the chart that I posted Friday night, the plotting of the trades for a couple of reasons. But the primary reason being that I really wanted um, to talk through some concepts which really don't even show up on the chart. And I think one of the dangers in doing this or looking at something like this, and one of the reasons that I do this very rarely, in addition to, as I mentioned, my not wanting to necessarily look back regardless on how a day went, is that it only really provides a part of the picture. Um, you know, I mentioned one thing last or Friday night when I posted this, which is first of all, it's a 30-second chart. I don't use a 30-second chart in my trading, but it was really the only way to plot some of the trades that were very close to each other, which is traditionally the case when I trade, especially some of the scratches and reentries. So I had to stretch the time frame out a little bit. Um, but and I'm looking at the chart here on my other screen. But the more important element that I really want to talk through are the things that you don't see on the chart, and I think this is where several people or many of the good chart technicians, if you will, sometimes might lose part of the picture. Again, I just wanted to talk through some of the things that I was thinking about and minimize any danger that could come out of presenting something like this. But some of the things you really don't see here, for example, is what caused the early spike. Pre-market and how was that information used later on? Well, certainly we had the jobs data that came out Friday morning. And you see I actually traded it. I was not sized very heavily, but I traded it a little bit. And it was pretty clear, even though the market got it got a 10-point pop at one point, but it certainly didn't feel strong in terms of market depth, in terms of trade interest in the community. I sensed that not only because I was watching it, but I was actually trading it. And this is one of the, I guess, times that hopefully demonstrates what I mean by sometimes I'll be trading just to get a feel for the market current or the river's current, because I think I can get a better feel for the market better when I'm trading it. I'm actively swimming in it, if you will, versus just watching it. And it certainly wasn't strong. It didn't feel strong. The depth wasn't strong. And yeah, there was a pop, but it just didn't seem to last. So um, that's information certainly that was useful later on as the day got underway. The bell rang. The normal session opened, and the market just plummeted and never really pulled back, at least very sharply. So you don't see that in the chart, but that's certainly what's going on pre-market. Other elements that you don't see in the chart, frankly, is how I feel about my performance. How confident am I? What's my trading been like? I'm a discretionary trader that certainly uses technical analysis, but I use judgment in terms of when I get in, when I get out, how heavily I might trade, and as I mentioned for a week or so now, I've certainly been taking early January fairly easy in terms of trade size and the number of sequences during the day. And that very well may be reflected in here. I may be someone who trades mornings very, very well, and typically I am. I don't trade afternoons well. That's how I'm wired. So if we were to look at an afternoon chart, which I didn't trade, by the way, on Friday, you'd see trades that reflect my personality, that reflect my style of trading, that reflect my strengths and my weaknesses, hopefully skirting around the weaknesses. Somebody else might present something like this, and it would be totally different. It might be totally opposite. So, again, I think one of the dangers in ever doing an analysis like this or looking at it in hindsight is that you don't see a lot of that. If you just look at the chart and don't think of those other things, then it can not only be meaningless but a pretty dangerous exercise. Having said that, I think there are a few things, and hopefully you printed it out or you're looking at it on another screen and having the video running. I think you can do that. Or stop and pause the video, print it out, and come back. But there are a few concepts I think that hold fairly true, and I think a few of the people commenting, or at least one last night, tended to touch on it a little bit. I think MK was asking the question, what happened if the market kept going up on those little purple short entries just before 10 o'clock, and my response was that I probably would have was scratched or stopped and positioned for a re-entry. And there's a kind of a hidden orange dot, and there's a dotted arrow pointing to it. Well, it's shortly after 10 o'clock. That you do see is that where I flattened. I think it was my entire position at that point, whatever I had left, just to reassess, just in case it did pop up, because I was certainly looking for higher short retracements. And they never showed up. You see those dark green circles again. That really, that's where I was looking to get short pretty heavily, and riding a piece anyway down for a good portion of it. But we never got it. The selling pressure was so strong. But nevertheless, when I questioned myself, it was sort of the third little spike up on that little pre-10 o'clock or 10 o'clock area movement. I flattened, reassessed. Market held steady, didn't continue to climb, and I got right back in short. Not only did I get in short, but I added to the short. You see two little pink circles right next to each other. The market dropped. I covered some, reevaluated again, shorted again, and then rode that down a little bit. And again, I'm not mentioning this, because I want to tell you how great that trade sequence was. It was one of thousands and thousands during the course of a year. But the point being that is often reflective of how I trade in terms of looking for wholesale entries. Obviously the market was short biased at that point. One of the reasons it wasn't able to climb and retrace as much as or as much as we would have liked to have seen it, at least a lot of us, was because the pressure was so hard. So I feel fairly confident about that area in terms of getting short. Hell, if it continued to rise, it continued to rise. If I stopped out, I stopped out. If it resulted in a loss, if it resulted in a large loss because of misplaced focus or misexecution or misreads, that's part of the game. And I totally accept that and recognize that that's going to happen. And I don't need to look back too far in terms of some days in 2008, despite the score for the year where I incurred losses. I mean, it's just part of the business. So that's another thing. Look at this and don't think that every day looks like this. But again, there's certain concepts. The concept of scratching and re-entering. My transaction costs as a member of the MORC, as I've said many times, are very low. You've got to keep that in mind in terms of keeping these executions in perspective. I'm sure one or two of these reflect. I remember one of them reflect a too quick short cover, where I covered it right before it dropped, and I really didn't mean to, but it was a snap judgment decision at that point, and I live with it and move on. In fact, I think that might have been the one right around that 10:08 period where I reshorted right away. Those sorts of executions are going to get reflected in this. So the market, of course, is far from a perfect animal. It never will be. We are far from perfect traders, and all we can do is, as I sometimes like to say, I guess, is eat off the menu that's provided, and just do our best. The other thing, real quickly, before I run out of time, and I touched on this in today's post, the weekend trader is one of the dangers I think I really do have, and using that scorecard that I've presented lately is, I don't ever want to feel good about my trading. And that's what keeps me fueled. That's what keeps me coming back. The desire to try to improve every day. The desire to come back Monday and Tuesday and do things better than I did today or yesterday. That's one of the reasons I like trading. That's one of the reasons I keep coming back, and that's one of the things that fuels me, both on a short and a long-term basis. So there is a danger in grading myself too high in a number of areas, and I did get a little concerned as the week went on that I had a lot of green there, and I'm sure there's a lot more that I can do. Hopefully the 6 different colors give me enough opportunity. Even when I feel I do something well, I can code it light green, and certainly not dark green. I think the dark green should be few and far between. And anyway, that's what I'm thinking as I'm putting that together in terms of my thoughts and using it going forward. So again, just want to follow up on the charting from Friday night. I hope it was helpful. I know many people have asked for something like this over time. Please understand why I don't do it. It's my trading style. I'm in and out so frequently that this would be a blur. I want to look forward. I don't want to really look back. Most of the references to 2008 are completely gone now, at least on the front page of the site. I'm moving ahead, and I guess that's what you got to do day by day. At least that's what I'm trying to do. So some quick docs on a Saturday. I got a concert to go to later today. Hope that helps. Enjoy the weekend. Take care.